Hello everyone, my name is Alessandro and this is the Temple of Surf, the podcast. We'll give you full access to the best surfers, skaters, shapers, surfboard collectors, shop owners in the world. Discover with me their stories, the greatest successes, amazing behind the scenes, and much more. This episode is brought to you by Yogi Pipe, a line of apparel created with eco-friendly materials by artisans from all over the world. Let's discover more about them and their collection on www.yogipipe.surf. Hello everyone, welcome to the 24th episode of the second series of our podcast. Today with us from Hawaii is Jeff Timpone. Let's discover more about his career, 50 years of hand-shaping surfboards, and much more. Hi Jeff, and welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Right now I'm sitting behind my desk in Haiku, Maui, Hawaii.
How's it going over there in this time of coronavirus?
It's been unusually busy. I think because everybody's surfing and nobody's working. So go figure.
That's amazing, right? From one perspective is amazing. From another one is worrying, right? But
yeah, I think we're blessed in a way because we're kind of isolated already by just being on an island, and they control the amounts of people and who's coming in with now. Now you have to have multiple tests and be screened and have your temperature taken constantly. So I think I know here on Maui, we're doing pretty good. We've had very few new cases. Amazing. And I know it's blowing up everywhere else. That is scary.
Yeah, that's scary. But good for you, and good for Hawaii that there was a way to limit the virus.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we're not going to talk about the virus. The idea is to talk about
We've
surf.
all talked about it way too much, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. The first question that I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
Just, you know what? The stoke, the adrenaline, the ride. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've been surfing since 1962, and I still have just a blast out in the water. There's just something about it. It's magic. It's the fountain of youth. I'm 72 years old. I'm still able to paddle out and ride waves. I mean, it's not pretty anymore, but I get the same amount of happiness out of it. It just brings a lot of joy. I think that's the best thing about surfing.
Yes, definitely. It brings something that nobody can explain, but maybe joy is you said it exactly. It's unexplainably just the feeling. I don't know if it's adrenaline or some other drug that our body produces, but whatever it is, it works. Definitely. So 1962, you started surfing, right? It's
yes.
Quite long time ago. Do you remember your first surfboard that you have ridden?
Yeah, I honestly didn't get my first surfboard till 1963, and it was in June. I got it on my birthday.
Wow! And
because I first discovered surfing, I was fishing off of the Huntington Beach Pier with my father, and saw a guy just ride kind of right underneath me and go right through the pier. I went, oh, that looks interesting. I want to try that. And of course, my father, who was a wonderful gentleman and provided a great life for me and my brother, said, well, you got to buy your own board. I'm not buying that thing for you. So I saved my pennies, nickels, and quarters for like a year. And then on my birthday, we went down to the pier and I bought a brand new Dale Velzy pop-out.
Wow.
I want to say it was like $82 or something. And I had most of the money and Dad kicked in the rest. And I have pictures of myself with it still.
Nice. It's amazing. The first surfboard, Welty surfboard. quite good one.
But it wasn't. It definitely wasn't hand shaped by Dale. It was a pop out, as I found out later when I crushed the nose and the thing peeled like a banana, and the stringer only went halfway through the board. There was a lot of corners cut on that board, okay. But I didn't know the difference. I was a total beginner.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was great.
Exactly. I think it worked. Like it did its duty.
I had the stoke already.
Exactly. And in shaping, when it was the first surfboard that when you start shaping, let's say professionally?
I shaped. And I say shaped. I built start to finish my first board. It had to be 1968, and I took a board that had already been shaped down into like a 710, and I shaped it down into like a 7.2 or a 7.4 or something.
Okay.
And sometimes I try to remember what tools I used, because I honestly could have used a knife and a fork. I mean, I don't remember. Honestly, don't remember. But I shaped it, and I glassed it, and I made a fin for it, and then I sanded it, and I wrote it, and then brought it over here to Hawaii and sold it for like $75. I thought, oh man, I'm hot stuff here, right?
Yeah.
And but I wasn't building boards for anyone but myself. I mean, I was just, and they were hatchet jobs. They were terrible. But I was young, and I could surf a little bit by then, and that probably, they sure felt good to me. My main job at that time in life, I was building boats over on Oahu.
Building what?
Boats.
Boats. Okay. Yeah.
But fishing boats.
Yeah.
So through that job, I learned all about fiberglass and resin, which came in, it still comes in handy for me, the stuff that I learned building those 27 and 33-foot fishing boats.
Definitely. But, it's something very common, among shapers now, like successful shapers or very well-known shapers, that when they started in the 60s, they were shaping only for themselves. Like you said, you were not like going to think about as a business, right? Oh my God!
That was the furthest thing from my mind.
Exactly. You wanted to shape for yourself to enjoy.
Yeah, and you know what? All I cared about then was my next wave.
Exactly.
Living here. I actually didn't live on Maui. I lived on Oahu and on Kauai, and we got so much surf. I mean, it was just ridiculous, and there was no crowds back then, or very minimal crowds. A crowded day was maybe like 10 guys.
Yeah.
And so there was always tons of waves, and it was a different Hawaii back then.
Yeah, I was talking with Joey Cabell in the episode like a few weeks ago, and he was telling me the same thing. Like the lineup was not that crowded. Nevertheless, even if there was like Californian or Australian coming visiting, it is not like today, So there was more space, and
I have a connection with Joey, who I actually I got to actually meet him and talk to him at Dick Brewer's 80th birthday party a few years ago.
Wow, what a party.
That boat shop that I worked at on Oahu, this guy Joe Quigg built Joey's 50-foot catamaran right next door. So I used to see him. Joe Quigg was an old board builder, but he was a master craftsman. Obviously knew how to make boats, and he was so meticulous. He made 50-foot, two of them, because it was an asymmetrical catamaran, and it was right next door. I got to watch the thing get built, start to finish, because we were working right next door. And the first one that came out was I'm pretty sure it was for Joey, and then he sailed it down to Tahiti.
Yeah, he told me about that story. And it was pretty cool. Yeah. In effect, it's now I can say that it's not only about being surfers. It's being about watermen, right? Whatever goes around water, if is it sailing or surfing or swimming, It's
paddling canoe, or there's so many things you can do in the ocean. In fact, as I'm getting into my years where I still love to surf, but like I said, it's not pretty anymore. I do a lot of stumbling with my takeoffs, and but I'm thinking one of them one-man outrigger canoes, where you could have a lot of fun with one of those.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, you told us like the first surfboard one of the first surfboard that you shaped for yourself, and then you sold
in Hawaii. But then when it started to become like a business for you?
Well, I stayed in Hawaii till 1972, and then I moved back to California because the boat business kind of fizzled out. And I got hired at a place called Russell Surfboards. And Bob Russell Brown was just a wonderful gentleman, and he was, we had two master shapers, and they needed a sander and someone to make fins. So I got the job.
Okay.
And being around that group of people, I really learned a lot. And I learned how to professionally, I learned how to shape, I learned how to glass, I learned how to do a lot of stuff in that shop because we were building, I want to say, somewhere between 35 and 40 boards a week. Oh, wow. So I was making a fin and sanding 6 to 8 boards a day. And they were, back then the boards were different. There was no airbrushes. All the colors were done in the resin with pigments and tints. So it was a great learning experience, and I made really good money there. And until I started shaping, then my pay got slashed. But I've slowly built my way back up. And by the time I got pushed into the shaping job because the other guys just kind of moved on. One guy went, Bruce Jones opened his own shop, and Mike O'Day went to work for the phone company because there was a retirement plan. There's no retirement plan in surfing. You just go till you drop.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
But you know what? I honestly, I look back, I've had a great life. I wouldn't change a thing. I've had wonderful people come and go through my life, and I've got a family, and life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, definitely. Who are or were your references in shaping growing up?
Yeah, the guys that I worked with that kind of mentored me told me that if I wanted to make it in the business as a shaper, that I had to be able to do everything from a knee board to a 12-foot gun. And I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. So I still, I like doing different stuff every day. I would go crazy if I had to come in and just make longboards or shortboards or, whatever. I have such a diverse clientele that keeps me on my toes. But the surfboard industry, the designs keep kind of, there's an evolution. Like we're back in twin fins all of a sudden. Well, yes. Twin fins were 1980. But they're back. They're just people incorporating different shapes with different fin configurations and different bottom configurations. So I feel good about being able to do different stuff every day.
Yeah. Is there a particular shape that you really like? I mean, I know that, as you said, doing all of them, it's the.
I guess, one of the reasons I moved out here in the first place was to do boards for waves of consequence. And I had no idea that when I landed here that there was a place called Jaws and that I'd be involved in making tow boards that were pulled into the biggest waves in the world. And and I've always made guns and I've had the templates, but now it's like everyone's paddling in. So I think guns and tow boards are what I get the biggest rush out of. Let's just put it that way. I get chicken skin on my arms just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're thinking about the guys that are using them, right? And
exactly. Yeah, I mean, my shop, I'm about 1 mile from Jaws where my shop is. And back in the early parts when, it was Dave Kalama, Rush Randall, Laird Hamilton, Pete Cabrina, Mike Waltz, Mark Angulo, the whole crew, they were the only guys out there. And I could drive down there and basically watch them ride my tow boards and get a lot of information and just get the stoke from them. It was a crazy time. There was nobody there. There was no flotation devices. There was no rescue sleds. It was really kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
And God bless them. Nobody got killed or seriously hurt.
Definitely, yes. It's like it's interesting what you said. You get the stock from the other people surfing. Really, it's like
totally,
yeah,
totally.
it's not only you surfing, but when you see like people doing
and being able to teach my son and my daughter how to surf and share that with them was a huge part of my stoke too. My son was he still is a great surfer. Mm-hmm. And my daughter, she's got 2 kids of her own, and she doesn't get out there as much as she'd like to anymore. But we were the surfing family for quite a while.
Nice, very interesting. My kids, they are only 1 and 2 years old. I can't wait to teach them how to surf. Really.
Yeah.
So
just make sure they can swim, and then they're ready.
Yes, good suggestion. I will try to remember. Of course.
I'm sure you knew that.
Yeah. I'll try. Let's talk about a relationship between a surfer and shaper. Like in all the episodes that I've done so far with the shapers, they said like the relationship between us and the surfer is so important because they help us to do better and to improve our skill.
I couldn't have said it any better. I have customers that I've had for 40 years that we're still working on new stuff. As they're aging, their boards are getting bigger, but they still, when you're in your late 50s, even early 60s, you're still able to surf pretty good. Yeah. You just need to be able to catch the waves. So the surfer-shaper relationship, I learned so much from what people are bringing or putting on my plate for me to do, because everyone's going in a little bit different of a direction. Let's put it that way. Some people want to make their surfing easier. Some want their boards to be long but super performance. Like I said, that's where I feel confident that I can kind of take somebody else's ideas and make it reality for them.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What
and I know there's other guys out there like Pat Rawson and guys that they're my age and they're very accomplished shapers. And they're doing the same thing I am. They're not running giant they're not doing mass production. Let's put it that way.
No, I think it should be like that. Even also at a certain stage of your career as a shaper, right? You said at the beginning, I was like doing like 8 boards per day. Some of other shapers, they said like they were doing 20 per day. Depends on what business was like, right? In those days. But I think the more you evolve and more you get.
I actually opened Timpone in 1980 in Huntington Beach, California, and I was praying that I could have 10 boards a week. People order. After 2 weeks, I was taking like 30 orders a week. The thing just went through the roof. To this day, I don't know why or what it was. Obviously, I knew what I was doing a little bit because I had such great experience drilled into me over at Russell Surfboard. And I learned from very accomplished people. So I knew what I was doing. I never blew it up, which is fine. I didn't want, there's a whole other story. But there's a responsibility that comes with having that kind of workload, and putting out that many boards is there's all the people that start to rely on you for their livelihood.
Yeah.
And
it's your name. It's your name on the board.
Ups and downs, and when it's down, you got to fire people and lay people off, and it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Of course, that's the worst part of the job, right? But of course, there is your name on top of the surfboard. So if the surfboards are not done properly, then your name is going to be affected, right?
No, you said it exactly. I always tell people, hey, it's my name on the front door here, and you're going to get my best effort. And if you absolutely hate it, bring it back. Tell me what you want me to change, and I'll make you another one for free. That's never been an issue for me.
Exactly.
I want people to have a positive experience so they come back. That's just like the business model.
Yeah. Like talking, you said Pat Rawson, and he was guest of the show as well, Stu Kenson as well. And
those guys are I don't want to say my contemporaries, but we're all kind of probably the same age or close to it. And we're none of us are making a zillion bucks, but we're making enough, and like I said, I'm enjoying the lifestyle still.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, in effect, what they're telling me is that Alessandro, the best thing for us is talking with people. Talking with surfers. Having generations, like a kind of grandfather that is my age that is bringing his grandson to the shop and shape his first surfboard. These are the things that are gratifying today, right?
And the kids are starting to surf so young. I mean, they're out there at 3 and 4 years old, and they're ripping. It's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. They go for performance surfboard straight at the beginning, right?
Yeah, but they're only like 4 feet long. They don't fit on my racks anymore.
Do you remember like a particular athlete or a surfer that gave you an important contribution for your shaping?
There's been so many guys that I've learned so much from, but I would have to say, because I built a lot of sailboards when I first got here to Maui. And that's how I met, Dave Kalama and Rush Randall and Mark Angulo. And I think combining certain aspects of sailboards, surfboards into the tow boards, and, I made some of the first kite boards for the first world champ was Marcus Austin. I think just all of that put together, I think it makes my boards unique. And I don't want that to sound like I'm head and shoulders above anybody or anything. I think I just have a lot of knowledge of different stuff that I've kind of pooled together. And from people, people bring me ideas. Dave Kalama brought me so much information and new ideas and bottom designs and stuff that, wow, something. Then we do it and it worked. It was like, oh, wow. Not only tow boards, but regular, I was talking to someone just this morning about the tow-in thing didn't start with Jaws. There was a group of guys here that put foot straps on their surfboards, were paddling into waves and doing flips and stuff, before aerials.
Yeah.
And that was Kalama and Cabrina and Rush Randall and those guys. So the boards that we made for them were, I don't want to say they were snowboard influenced, but it was attached to surfing. You were attached to your board. So there was all these new options that you could pursue and try to make work. So I think it was that group of guys, and that's later in my career. I think there was some great surfers on my boards in California, and I had a great group of guys in Texas riding my boards. But I think the guys that here when I got to Maui that kind of embraced me and trusted me to build those first tow boards and the first stand-up paddle boards, all that stuff. I just happened to be the guy who had an open mind, and that they could come to me and talk to me and give me their ideas, and I could take their ideas and put it on foam.
Yeah, communication and conversation is so important, right? I mean, if you, as you are listening,
I don't ever want to say I know it all about shaping or surfing, because I don't. I'm more of the guy that I call myself like a technician. I could take people's ideas and turn it into a foam surfboard.
Yeah.
And I seem to be able to interpret their ideas and get it on the board, be it good or bad. You never know.
Yeah.
But,
somebody had the bad ideas.
Good surfers, it's like if you put Kelly Slater, as I say, on an ironing board, he'd still be shredding.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So you get a good surfer on anything, and they're going to love it, or they're going to say, oh, okay, well, this works, but we can do better. That's where the surfer-shaper relationship comes in. It's the constant improvement and refinement of designs and shapes, and that's part of it that keeps me going.
Yeah.
Also keeps me up at night,
But I hope not so many nights, right? So, if you had to pick one moment of your career and call it the defining moment of your career, which one would it be?
Oh, boy.
Huh.
Well, that's a tough one. I may not be able to answer that one because, the career is still going. Hey, there may be something still out there that I haven't experienced yet.
Definitely. Yeah. It can be in the future.
But, I had such and I'm still having such a full life, but being in California in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, let's put it this way, it was mind expanding. There was so much going on and so much surf and so much partying, and it was wild times. And I rode it as long as I could.
That's living those years was different, right? Like the way the sport evolved today, surf evolved.
Oh,
today.
Totally.
Yeah, when I spoke with Greg Knoll, and I asked him about how he was training. He told me, I don't know if you listened to the episode. It's fun, actually.
I have not. But I'm going to.
Yeah, and actually it's fun because he said you know what, my training, he was surfing my ass off Waimea every day. From morning till sunset, and just had a break for a peanut butter sandwich, and that's it. So that was my way to keep in shape, So today, if you think about, all the trainers and it's important, right? Because the competition, it goes into levels when you think about aerial moves and the movement are totally different.
Or some of the places they surf now, Tilpu, in Tahiti there. I look at that. That's not a wave. That's like a circus act. Even in my youth, I would never have considered paddling out there. It looks too scary. I mean, it's just oh man, you could seriously get killed out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So those guys, these athletes that are today's top level surfers, they have to be totally fit, totally clean living. My hat's off to them. I love these guys, and they're training and pushing the limits, and they're riding their bikes up the mountain here, up to the top of Haleakala, and just doing stuff that they're physically so capable that getting thumped by a 30 or 50 foot wave, you know what? That's okay. I've done it 100 times, and that's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't know, if it's. If it was more dangerous for Greg Knoll surfing Waimea in the 60s with those boards, or today
that too.
Surfing
the boards were junk. There was really no design. I mean, I want to say Pat Curran probably had some low rails in the back of the board, but they had no. I don't want to say they had no concept of they didn't have any concept of modern day rockers and rail designs, and they were just busting stuff out and going for it. And that's why, I mean, Greg Knoll, man, my hat's off. The guy's an animal.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about innovation today. So I was looking at your website, and I saw about new materials, sustainability, eco-friendly. How do you deal with innovation today?
Well, what we're doing today is we're using solar-made foam or recycled foam cores. We have a plant-based epoxy super sap that we use. We're using flax, hemp, and basalt fabrics on our we call them their Maui leaf light design. And it could be any shape, but we're just trying to make boards out of less harmful materials. And the sustainability thing, some of it is longevity. So many boards are being built with single layer of glass on both sides, and they end up in the landfill. Yeah. We're trying to make boards that last for a few years. Yeah. And I think that's very important. That's what we're doing. And I don't see too many other people pursuing it here. But it's also, it started off as kind of like a project that my son and I worked on. and it was all his idea. He graduated from college with a sustainable business degree and the sustainable science business degree, and he just had this idea. He researched all the materials, and now it's become 2/3 of the business.
Yeah.
We're building a lot of styro epoxy. I mean, we're building so much we can't keep up. Not that we can't keep up with the demand. The materials can't keep up with us. We're having trouble getting the epoxy that we need. We're importing some of the fabrics from Australia and China because they make organic hemp, which we use on the decks of our boards. But that being said, the sustainability part of our business is taking off because people are conscious of what they're getting.
Yeah.
And we can make a really light performance shortboard that's durable, that's not going to disintegrate. You know, I know you're aware that most of the pros that travel the earth, they're getting so many boards.
Yeah.
And they ride them a half a dozen times and they just give them away or they sell them. And they're beat, you know. I mean, they're breaking boards left and right if they're in any kind of serious surf.
Yeah.
We're trying to do I don't say the eco-friendly, but the sustainable thing would be to have a board that you like and that it lasts you for a while.
Yeah.
You get your, like I tell, I want you guys to get your money's worth. I don't want you to spend $800 and have it last you for 2 weeks, and then you're back here going, "What happened to my board? I don't have another 800. What do I do?" You know?
No, it's definitely what you're saying is right, and also the surf industry itself, like any industry in the world today, has to take a more, let's say, to take the environment. As we are surfer and we are in the sea all the time, we have to take the environment really in our art, right? If we think about the surf wax, or if we think about the wetsuits,
sunscreen, there's so many things that we're either putting under our feet, on our bodies, or into the air, you know.
Yeah, we cannot complain that the sea is polluted. We need to do our part as well, right? So
exactly.
What's next? We talk about, of course, innovation, sustainability, custom surfboard. Do you have any other projects going on?
You know, not really. I'm right now. I'm really super focused on just what's in front of me. Yep. My other projects are going to be traveling a little bit more for my own enjoyment. This last year I was actually supposed to go back. I went to, for my 70th birthday, I gave myself a trip to Europe. I'd never been.
Oh.
So I went and just by myself, strapped on a backpack, and went to France and Italy and Portugal and Spain, and just had a great time. And I met some people in Portugal who wanted me to come back this last spring and shape 20 boards for their shop in Ericeira in Portugal.
Nice.
But the COVID thing just screwed everything up. So I'd like to go back over there. I've already paid my money to go back on my annual surf trip to Mexico, where there's this beautiful little place with this beautiful little sand bottom point waves that I just have fallen in love with. I just want to travel a little bit. That's kind of what's in my wheelhouse. Board wise, stuff just keeps kind of, like I said, it's just kind of recycling. It just kind of keeps going and going and going. It's crazy. Like I said, it went from the Mark Richards style twin fins to now it's evolved into wing, pin, channel, twins, and mid lengths. Just combinations of stuff. And being able to put it together and kind of understanding the dynamics of where the fins go and how the channels are incorporated into the whole thing and how they're going to react with the water flow. So there's just always seems to be something new popping up. I don't have to do it. It's coming to us.
That's interesting. So it's not very few things. It's quite a lot of busy life you have. So cool. We're gonna finish our interview with a short Q&A, question answer session. So please answer.
Go right ahead.
The first thing that comes up to your mind. Okay.
Okay.
The best surfboard that you ever ridden.
I had a 6'9", just like a squash tail with a triple concave, and I kept it. I've got a couple of boards that I've kept, but this one, when I was still young enough to surf, that was just the board, and it was, I'm a big guy. I'm 220 pounds, wow. So it was wide and thick, but boy, that board just worked. That's all I can say is that and I had big old giant side twin fins on it and a little trailer fin. I rode it for a few years, just, when I was around, 60, 62, 63 years old. And, I had, stuff happened in my life and all my surfing kind of went to hell, and I'm kind of crawling back into it. I had my hip replaced, and then I ended up having to take care of my aging parents, so I didn't get to surf for a year and a half. So with the hip and the parents, I kind of lost my edge. So I don't really shortboard anymore. My new shortboard's 8.3. So anyway, with that best board, it was this one. It was all, surfing is just about the feel.
Yeah.
If you get on a board and it does what your mind tells it to do, that's the magic board.
Yeah. I agree with you. Your favorite shaper?
There's so many. Gosh.
No.
I mean, I have to say Mike Diffenderfer. I mean, I met him when I lived in Kauai a long time ago, and some guys over there had some of his boards, and they were absolute masterpieces. I mean, wood crafted. I mean, he was a master shaper. Diff was probably, he was probably 15 or 20 years older than me. So it would have put him, he'd be like Ole now. He'd be in his 90s. But he passed away. He got sick and died. But I'd say Diff. Diff was the guy.
Personal question, your favorite song?
Well, I'm being a child of the 60s, I'd have to say, and you can edit this out, but it was probably Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, amazing. It's amazing.
I still listen to it. I mean,
yeah,
if you heard my music, if you heard what goes on my headphones, you'd probably get a good laugh.
There is nothing better than a rubber plant at the Led Zeppelin ears, right? So.
No, that's true. That's true.
Your favorite surf spot?
Honolulu Bay on Kauai.
Your favorite surfer today?
Gosh. This is kind of I'm just going to go probably with this pat answer. John.
Okay.
John's amazing.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
I mean, he's doing stuff still that, I mean, Italo's incredible, and I'm having a brain freeze. The other Brazilian kid, Gabriel Medina. I mean, they're from another planet as far as I'm concerned, but. Being Hawaiian, I got to go with John.
Of course, you must, The last question we ask everybody has nothing to do with surf or surf shaping. We want to know your best relationship advice.
I'm going to say my best relationship. Well, I could say it's with my son, but I was married to their mother for 37 years, and she passed away about 5 years ago.
I'm sorry.
And she wasn't. I had a young lady after her who surfed, and having a girlfriend who surfed I think that just made it for me. I mean, I'm going to leave it there because we're no longer together. It's all good. I was just too old for her.
We leave it like this. Surf is important in your life, has been so important in your life, and it's going to be very important in your life. So thanks a lot, Jeff, for being on the show with me
Alessandro,
today.
Thank you so much. This was fun. I loved it. And thank you, Alessandro. Have a great day.
Ciao, bye-bye.
Aloha.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!